Thank you. It's good to see everyone, although I actually can't see you. But so what I'm here to tell you about is time travel is a real thing. Now, before you roll your eyes, I want to say up front, I'm not talking about like what happened in the Avengers Endgame or Back to the Future or even Hot Tub Time Machine. No, the time travel I'm talking about really has to do with dance. So let me explain. So a few years back, I was with my family at a dance convention. My son does competitive hip hop dance, of all things. His and his team is quite good. So every year they go to a nationals dance competition, and we were in Ocean City, Maryland for this dance competition, so a week in Ocean City. And I should say we were actually a week sequestered in the Powell Convention Center at Ocean City, Maryland, because at these things there's really no time for fun in the sun. It's just intense dance all the time. And during one of the very long breaks between the routines, my wife and I walked through the snack area in the convention center. And the snack area, there's the place where you get food, and then along a series of tables, and then there's a line of tables adjacent to this stairwell going up to the second floor. And my wife and I are walking through this area, and I glance over at one of these tables, and there's this middle-aged man hunched over a laptop computer, furiously typing away at the keyboards. He has a baseball cap on, a Phillies hat, and long jet black hair. And even though his face was obscured, he looked familiar. And I said to my wife, "That looks like Rob." So Rob was a good friend of mine in high school. We even were in a basement band together, though we never quite escaped, his basement. I hadn't seen him in years. I think the last time I saw him, it was over. It was lunch at a Fuddruckers in Virginia, outside D.C. And his son was there. His son was about 3 or 4. My son was about 1 year old. So a great friend who I hadn't seen for years. And so here's this guy that I think is my former friend. So how do you go up to someone like that and say, hey, hey, are you Rob? Are you my best friend from high school? It would be a little awkward if he wasn't him. So what would a super confident guy do? Well, I hurried past the room, hurried past the table, snuck up the stairwell behind him, leaned over the railing and yelled out, "Rob!" Total passive move, but it worked. He lifted his head up, and I was delighted, and I ran down the steps and I went to greet him. And so here's my friend who I haven't seen in years, and what the very words out of his mouth, and this is what I quote. He said, "Dave, you have the same haircut since high school." Right? And that was my first clue that time travel actually exists, because who has the same haircut for 25 years? So I kind of had to time jump. My second clue that time travel exists is when we started talking about our lives in the past year. So he brought me up to speed about his son going off to college. And that's when it really struck me, because it was like, his son's in college? His son is now the age that Rob and I were when we were at the peak of our friendship, right? A really meaningful time. And so how could this infant, right, grow up to be a man in just a blink of an eye, right? That was no time at all. It had to be time travel. So we exchanged pleasantries, caught up, took the obligatory photo and posted it on Facebook, and then we went our ways to watch the rest of the dance competition. Turns out his teenage daughter was there competing as well. And we would text each other, compliment each other on the dances, make sarcastic comments about the choice of music. It gets really weird at these dance competitions. And so it really felt like no time had passed between us, and yet 14 years had passed. And it's just that realization, how does that happen? How does time move that quickly? It has to be time travel. So the next day, end of the convention, I see him and his wife and his daughter leaving the convention center. And it was this really sweet snapshot. It was this really meaningful, him kind of guiding his wife out the door. And that picture is now the one that's most vivid memory I have of Rob and his family. It was really sweet. And just got me thinking, was our mutual absence from each other's lives, did that have a big impact, right? Did it have any effect? And it's hard to argue with the results because at the time, well, I would say at the time, hopefully still currently, we're both happy people with wonderful families and really seem to be enjoying life. So maybe our absence didn't mean all that much. Because after all, there is time travel, right? But it only moves forward, right? We enjoy, time moves so fast, we just jump from time to time, hardly appreciating that the fleeting moments of the everyday. So I know my chance encounter with Rob in this obscure convention center really forces me to try to slow down and appreciate that. Because while time travel does exist, that rapid expanse of time, I also realize that the only time time travel does not work is when you're at one of these dance conventions, because that's when time stands still at those. So thank you.